Cyber Sidekicks, the weekly cybersecurity podcast hosted by Richmond Advisory Group's principal analysts, that's namely me, Rory Duncan.
And me, Christina Richmond. This podcast is your go-to partner for understanding the cybersecurity market, industry trends, and the real-world challenges of protecting organizations today. Hello, Rory. How are you today?
Hey, I'm good. Yes, thank you very much. I had a treatment on my back earlier at the chiropractor, so I'm all ready to go, which is great. And we have a very interesting show this week coming up later. This week's special guest is Kayla Underkoffler, who is the lead security engineer in the CTO office at Zenity. So she'll be there with us later on. We're talking about all things to do with Agentic AI. What else have we got coming up, Christina?
You know, I'm super excited to talk with Kayla. I think it's going to be a great chat. We're also talking about Google AI tool Big Sleep, which identifies zero-day vulnerabilities in what it says is a first for an AI agent, speaking of agentic AI. Then we have a couple other stories, right?
Yes, we do. I thought this was an interesting one. There's a new cyber intelligence firm that's emerged from stealth mode, as they say, called iCounter. Yep. And they've had a decent chunk of funding and a familiar face at the helm. And then the last story we'll cover is, I saw this one. So AWS has surprised us with a preview of an agentic AI integrated development environment, also known as an IDE, which they're calling Kiro. But clearly, we need to talk about the security implications of that. And then what else have we got?
So, folks, so we got some great feedback from a friendly listener, and we do listen. So this feedback, very constructive, thought that we should flip. We should have some signposts of what's coming up in the episode, and that B, we should flip the order and put the guest first. So that's what we're doing. Let us know if it works for you. But just a little update first before we jump into our lovely chat with our guest. Please sign up for the newsletter, Signal, Not Noise. We had a few signups this last week, and if you are one of them, I am sending you the 4-page extract from our recent AI security survey update, which looks at how prepared CISOs, the C-suite, and senior IT practitioners are to face AI-powered attacks and what would help them to prepare. So if you have not signed up and have not requested your 4-page extract, please do. It's on the homepage of our website, richmondadvisorygroup.com.
So this week's special guest is Kayla Underkoffler, who is the lead security engineer in the CTO office at Zenity. Hey, Kayla, thanks for being a guest on the show. How are you?
Hey, doing well. Thanks for having me.
Great. We managed to finally get the introduction done after about the 17th take. So here we are. I appreciate you coming on the show. And we were going to talk about AI agents primarily, but perhaps the first question that Christina can ask you.
Yeah, thanks so much, Kayla, for coming on. We're super excited to have you on, and don't know a lot about Zenity, so we're looking forward to hearing a little bit about the company. But mostly what we really want to focus on is what keeps you up at night. What is worrisome to you?
Oh, I love that question. It's such a grounding question, like the things that actually keep you up at night. I think
right?
It is. So I would say in this world of AI agents and security, I think the biggest thing for me that's worrisome, or maybe the thing that I hope we don't get wrong, maybe is the way to phrase it, is the fact that we have this new technology. It's the next wave, it's the next thing, and that is agentic AI. Really, Gen AI in general, but especially as you start getting into agents. My fear, or the thing that I hope we don't do, I hope we don't skip over security this time. I hope we actually...
you put the nail right, or you hit the nail right on the head. Okay,
yes.
Continue. Sorry, I had to jump in.
Yeah. No, totally. I think I've been able to talk about this beginning technology, getting all of this implemented. And I've been able to have the opportunity multiple times to speak with people about this and say, look, I hope we learn from our mistakes and we incorporate security as an innovation multiplier. We make sure these guardrails and best practices, the foundations, are there as we build out this new venture that that is agentic AI. And so I guess my biggest fear would be that we repeat the mistakes from the past.
Yeah, but we're destined to, Kayla. I am an optimist. I I am an optimist. And you and I have been around, and Rory, we've been around technology for decades. And we've been around humans for decades.
Yes.
And we do repeat history. So what I like about what I see on Zenity's website, and we're not going to talk really about Zenity that much, but what I like is that you're saying, have some visibility, see where the AI agents are, because they're everywhere potentially.
Yes.
And I love the graphic you have with the purple employee, the purple attacker. You've got the rag poisoning, embedded credentials, and you've got all this stuff that you're showing as a potential threat. So I'm guessing that Zenity's job and your passion, then, if you're worried, if it's keeping you up at night, that we won't do security right, that your passion then is to have visibility and to be able to discover agents and to be able to monitor them and potentially even inject some lovely security here and there. Tell me about if I'm right.
Yes. Yes, you're definitely right. I think the biggest thing we try to emphasize at Zenity is that AI agents are incredibly powerful. They are force multipliers. They help everyday employees be that much more efficient. They help get a lot of work done in very structured ways, of course. It's not like it's magic. But with all of that power and the connectivity with the critical data and critical elements of an organization's infrastructure, there's a lot of risk there. And the biggest thing for us is we want to make it easy and enable teams to secure these agents so that they can innovate, so that they can take advantage of all of the benefits that come along with AI agents. And the truth is if we don't have the foundations right, start assessing the new security risks that are introduced through AI agents, if we can't get those right in the first place, the innovation just becomes that much more challenging, because you have to get over those hurdles as you get farther into the journey versus incorporating them from the beginning.
So we've had a bunch of conversations on this podcast about identity and agents and non-human identities, how agents will take the role of a human in creating a new service account or creating another identity to work with.
Yeah.
We've had conversations about that, so I'd love to talk about that. But then we've also, off the podcast, had conversations, and I've recently, Rory, had two, which I haven't told you about just because there hasn't been time, but I've had two about data protection just recently. So one was looking at a company that does a very unique kind of DLP for agentic AI, data loss prevention. And the other one was much more philosophical and futuristic about the types of agents that one can create and the empowerment you give to different types of agents, and how that then allows you better visibility if you create one type and less visibility if you create the other. Now, I am no agentic AI expert, but I'm curious, when I say data or when I say identity, what pops up for you, Kayla, in what you're doing and what keeps you up at night?
Well, I think the biggest thing is that both of those are foundational security pillars, identity and data. And
Mm-hmm.
so a lot of the conversations I end up in, there's a general theme when it comes to agentic security and AI security in general, right? Splitting kind of the two out, that
Right.
the foundations are still the foundations. They're the same foundations we've had for all these other implementations of new technology. And
Yep.
the critical component here is that it's all about scale. So we have to do the foundations better than we already don't do them because we don't
Yeah.
do them
Yeah.
well today.
Right.
But we need to, because AI and AI agents are going to maximize the potential for misuse, for abuse, for malicious activity, because there's so many of them, and they can so seamlessly touch every aspect of your organization. So you have to have a proper data management plan at the very beginning. You have to know where your data is and have the labels on your data to know what is sensitive,
Right.
what is confidential. Because one of the things I love to do is I do this little activity, and it's an educational session with folks where I build an AI agent in Copilot Studio, and all the core components that make an agent. And we do that in about 10 minutes max. It's
Wow. Okay.
so easy. It's so easy to create a fully functioning AI agent and connect that agent to data in your, like for Copilot Studio, right? It'd be like in your SharePoint, in your M365 environment, all of those areas that you just lump data in. The challenge organizations are facing today is that when they first got into this M365 environment, the cloud, having all of your data online, they just dumped their data into M365. Like that was just it. Without maybe the
Yep.
same, if they had data processes before when it was on-prem, then they moved to the cloud and it was just like, okay, just dump it all in there, right? That's what we're supposed to do. So now there's this refactoring that has to take place with data that makes sure that you know what is where. And then when you start talking about the impacts for the agents, it's that as an organization, you know that maybe this class of agents, you have static text files that are knowledge resources for that agent. This is a good example. If you load a static knowledge resource into your AI agent, you have to know to update that static data source because the agent will refer back to that. If the policy on the flip side of that static document has changed, you need to change the document that the agent has access to. It gets to that level
Wow.
of data management. And when I do that, people are always like, whoa, that's a lot.
Yeah.
I was just going to say, it sounds like, it reminds me of many of the conversations, Christina, that we've had in the last few months where we talk around the topic of the technology, but it always gets back to, good practice when dealing with data and cleaning the house, as it were, making sure you know where everything is, making sure you know how secure everything is. Otherwise, to your point, Kayla, you go from a organized, regulated environment to one that isn't. The danger is that you're not going to get anything out of it. In fact, you may end up being in a difficult situation where agents are acting on data that's not secure itself, or is not being updated, or cannot be found, or is somewhere else.
Yes.
And I think one of the things that caught my attention on this topic was actually one of your not your slogans, but one of your statements on your website, which seems as if it came out of like page 1 of a parenting manual, which is see what's happening, stop what shouldn't, and act before it escalates. That seems to be pretty good business practice, full stop. You're talking about a process as opposed to talking about the technology.
Absolutely. The fact that anybody can build an agent, and it's so seamless in these. There's like a couple different foundations in which you can build an agent. You can do it through a SaaS platform like a Microsoft, like a Salesforce. These are kind of off the shelf. You can build them through the cloud, like AWS Bedrock or Azure Foundry. And then now you even have the desktop capabilities with AI assisted coding, like Cursor. Your devs can create agents on their laptop local. Knowing where all of those agents are, that's the next level. The data is the foundation. And then you also need to have the ability to be tracking then what's going on with these agents, not just who is building them, but how are they being built? What choices are going in to the foundational creation of these? Are they secure choices or are they not secure choices? Because there's plenty of opportunity to do both. And so we really profess that you have to have that visibility first and foremost into how these things are built, and then also importantly, what they're doing when they actually run in your environment.
Yeah.
And that's the like truly agentic part of this security journey.
Yeah. And then that takes us back to the beginning of the conversation, this idea of optimism, right? If how optimistic are we that people are going to do that, or will bad behavior just transfer to a new platform or environment or technology? If we, in theory, right, if you have a very good and very clean and structured security operations, introducing something like AI agents, which can be used by the coders, if your organization is set up to do it in an organized and responsible and understood way, then fine. But most organizations are not. I think that's back to the beginning of the conversation. How confident are we that organizations are ready for AI agents?
Yeah, I think a lot of what we see is that this adoption of AI agents is coming from the top down, first off. So this is one of those things, that senior leadership, the board, the folks at the top are saying, we need to be a part of this. We can't be left behind. That's this awkward forcing function for everyone else that's basically like, okay, AI agents are here. Let's do this. And the organizations that we work with, one of the legs up for people, like where they have a better understanding of how to approach this, there's the SaaS AI agents, like I was talking about, the ones that are built with this low code, no code technology, kind of, which is drag and drop, right? You can have a non-developer very easily build a fully functioning piece of technology. Business users, folks in finance, in HR, and marketing.
Right.
And because of these low code, no code technologies, they can build AI agents whenever they want. So low code, no code's been around for a bit, right? And I think those organizations that have a handle on understanding that anybody can build these things, and we need to make sure that the security policies and the guardrails are in place to help them make the best choice as easily as possible. The organizations that understand that whole mindset are better prepared for the adoption of AI and AI agents, because AI is inherently a technology for the end user. It's meant for everybody to be able to use it. And so if as an organization you acknowledge that anyone in your business can build technology, and so my security policy needs to be published at a very, very high level for any business user to be able to understand, we need to have guardrails and training and education before we allow anybody to start building in these environments. So when you start setting those guardrails in place to make it easy for people to make good choices, it does set you up for a better adoption journey.
There's a kind of responsibility there. And if you do that first, then it's going to be a better idea. And actually, that's really interesting, because I know, Christina, you and I have worked on cloud technologies over many years. A lot of that happened with the early days of cloud. Everybody put everything in the cloud, but with very few guardrails or organization or responsibility.
And then there was limited visibility too.
Yes.
Back then. We didn't have the visibility into the data that we have now in the cloud. But sorry to interrupt, Rory. I'm curious, Kayla, how we remediate, because we are human, and we know that quite often we build, especially business personalities jump in whole hog, very excited to have a new capability, and they don't necessarily think about security, and it's an afterthought. And so, how do we remediate and insert security after the fact, if it's even possible with agents?
This is something that we see all the time. The remediation aspect of this journey is just as important as the detection in the first place, at least in my opinion. I mostly come from like a vulnerability management background, and absolutely remediation is the worst part of the job. Nobody ever wants to do it. No one knows how to do it, and yet it's the most important. It's the most important. So
it's
when
messy. It's really messy.
It is. There is never a clean remediation path, especially for complex vulnerabilities or risks. So one of the things I love about the approach that we've taken at Zenity is we acknowledge that these environments, like the business innovation environments, let's say, so these SaaS platforms that anybody can build. It just the technology that makes these things so easy. AI assisted coding is going that direction too. It's the ease of use. In these environments, you have to be able to scale remediation just as much as you have to be able to scale, detection and the ability to build in the first place. So the way that we do that is, first off, you have to make sure that the remediation, when you are sending, you've discovered something, you've seen, you've found a violation on an agent somebody in finance built, you discover that. The key to scaling remediation in these environments is actually sending that violation to the builder in the first place. So it's the security team that has insight into the guardrails, into the policies, like the security team, and let's say it's with a platform. You normally combine teams here, which is another cool aspect of agents and AI, is that it's forcing silos to come together. At the offset of this statement of we care about security in this environment, we are going to build these foundations in, it's those groups make the decisions about, okay, these are the guardrails, these are the policies. Like, we help a lot with that, of course, in the groups we work with, but that type of practice is published elsewhere. Like OWASP has, there's an OWASP top 10 for low code, no code, which gives those best practices out there. So those groups come together and say, okay, these are the guardrails, these are the rules. And the way we do it is, when we find that violation, it's sent to the maker directly. Because if security gets in the middle, they're going to be a bottleneck. The cool thing about SaaS platforms and some of these drag and drop building capabilities is that the remediation is often a simple configuration change that the maker can do themselves. And so the way to scale a lot of this building is to make sure that these findings are going to the people who have the best capability to fix them. But of course, this does take collaborative effort, right? Because the business has to also understand that it's important that their employees, their team members, understand that they need to prioritize those fixes. And that often, that cultural shift can be one of the hardest things to accomplish.
Yeah, well, it reminds me of DevSecOps. So I want to coin a term of like DevSecAgentOps.
Yes.
I mean, you've got to bring together, and I don't know if Dev is involved, but business is involved, to your point, because you can create these agents within the business unit using a SaaS capability, a low code, no code capability. So dev might be involved. Security definitely has to be involved. Operations, yes. And then the agents are in the middle. So I don't know what that real term is, and maybe there is a real term and you can inform us about it. But you're right that the cultural aspect, that is still beleaguering to the dev and ops and security teams trying to come together. And here we're introducing yet again a new opportunity for collaboration.
I think DevSecAgentOps is a good one, Christina.
Yes.
You heard it here first, everybody.
I'll
go out and get the webpage and the domain.
You get the webpage.
Yes.
Quick. quick. And
Yes, that's going to be a shout out, 100%. I'll carry that forward.
Yeah, fine.
We'll get T-shirts made.
Yeah.
Well,
Yes.
we should let Kayla go we've kept you long. I was late, and I really want to honor your time, Kayla. This has been so educational and so helpful to me personally, and I'm sure it is also very, very instructive and useful to our listeners. So thank you.
Yeah, of course. Thank you. What a great conversation. I feel like we could have just talked for hours and hours. I'm sure that's how you feel when you guys get to talk to people all the time. Such a great conversation.
Yeah. Great. Thank you very much, Kayla. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Talk to you again soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Great. Let's do some news now, Christina. And we've got a few things to cover this week, I think, as we mentioned at the top of the show. First up is a new cybersecurity company has emerged from stealth mode, which I always think is a great way of describing a company kind of coming out in the open, if you like. It's coming out day. And it's called iCounter. And it's been given about $30 million in funding, which is great. If anybody wants to give us $30 million for the podcast, I'd be very happy to do that. And what I thought was interesting is because iCounter is being led by John Waters, who served as president and CEO of Mandiant prior to its acquisition by Google. And, he's a veteran of the industry. He's worked in many, many different companies, and the fact that he's kind of reappeared here, I know people will be very interested to hear what he's doing. So this is originally the firm with its new name. It was spun out of a cybersecurity solutions provider, Apollo Information Systems. So with its new name and it's got this funding, it's developed an AI-driven intelligence platform designed to enable organizations to detect and block targeted attacks. The unique aspect, or what they're saying makes them worth taking a look at, is the fact that they can act as an early warning system to identify threats specific to the customer's ecosystem, while also providing intelligence that enables rapid containment and recovery after an attack has taken place. Now, that might not be a unique feature, but as a package, might be interesting to find out a bit more about this. What do you think?
Well, yeah, we'll have to get a briefing, and I guess this is a shout out to them. I'll also reach out to them. Yeah, I think when you have someone who's been in the industry as long as Waters has, you sit up and take notice. But it also seems a little bit like, isn't this just proactive threat intelligence? I mean, Mandiant's doing it today. IBM is doing it with X-Force and their PTI, and others are doing predictive or proactive threat intelligence. So I don't know if it's anything new. Maybe the way they present it is new. They say that they're using Agent AI to help them with it. Maybe that's new, but I see others using Agentic AI as well. So yeah, don't know yet, Rory. I think we're going to have to investigate. But yeah, shout out to them. Congratulations on the 30 million. Do good with it.
Yes. Don't be evil.
Do good.
Do good. That's right.
That's right.
So what else have we got then, Christina?
Oh yeah, Google's AI tool, Big Sleep, uncovered the critical SQLite zero-day vulnerability and blocked active exploitation.
Yeah, I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah, tell me more.
Well, Google and other companies are forging ahead with developing new tools and new feature sets, particularly when it comes to AI agents, not just to have them as tools to create something else, but using AI agents to mitigate against cyber attacks. In other words, using the tools themselves to help potentially prevent. It's not just a one-way. They are a risk. They are also a tool that can be used. So this tool called Big Sleep, Google says, and it said it on its What's Happening in Summer 2025 blog that they do, saying, look, this is a kind of a first. This tool helped discover and prevent the exploitation of this critical zero-day vulnerability in SQLite. And then they're saying that this is the first time an AI agent has directly thwarted active cyber threats in the wild. So that's good, right? If that's accurate, I guess we can assume at this stage that it is. That kind of marks a turning point in many ways. It's something that, if you think about companies that have the capability and the resources and the skills and the people to do this, then Google's definitely right up there, right? They say that it was a collaboration between Google DeepMind and then Google Project Zero. So they've obviously had some kind of cross-pollination between the different teams to come up with this. So partly, if you think about how we can then use AI agents proactively, as opposed to it's something that they're just another, non-human identity or something, here's a start. So yeah, good on them. If this was indeed the first zero-day vulnerability that was detected and actively mitigated against while it was happening, then great. Hopefully this is a start. Maybe we'll see others like this.
Well, that's exactly where we need to go with AI and with agentic AI. We need to be more, as we were just saying, proactive and predictive. And Google's doing so many things in this realm. Their research is really interesting. Their capabilities that they have on the Mandiant side around proactive threat intelligence, as we've seen, is really interesting. They're really a deep engineering research and development company. I don't think we always see the business offering benefit directly. There's kind of this quiet under the hood aspect to Google, but they've been doing a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, the acquisitions they've made in recent years, and now, of course, Wiz that they're going to be integrating, they do a lot. And I think if anything needs to happen, just in my humble opinion, with Google, is they need to get out of their own way in terms of the clarity of their offerings and the directness with which they engage the enterprise and how they speak about their offerings so that the buyer understands the breadth of their capabilities. So very exciting information in this little bit of news. And I would just say more and do it in a way that's simple and direct to your buyers so that they understand how to take advantage of all of this.
That's very wise words. And hopefully somebody from Google's listening.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
Yeah. The one listener we have in Ukraine.
That's right. We have a listener in Ukraine.
Google.
And if you are listening, the listener in Ukraine, whether you're with Google or not, but we're very pleased that you're listening, and we'd like to extend our wishes and full support to you going forward, because this is something that's very close to our hearts. And the last news item was about Amazon Web Services. Now, I've put this in. It's not just another AI story, not just another AI agent story, because we've obviously covered a lot in this particular episode. But AWS has previewed. It's called Kiro, which is a fork of code, which is open source code, part of Visual Studio Code, which promotes an AI-driven developer workflow based on specifications, including requirements documents. So it's an agentic AI IDE driven by specifications documents. And you might think, oh, well, here's another one of these. I think because it's AWS, AWS has various strategic relationships with a number of AI companies, right? It doesn't have its own particular product platform, right? It does a lot with Anthropic. It supports various other models, and it has a more kind of third-party approach to who it supports. But I thought this is an interesting one because it's something that perhaps can be used, and even though it's a standalone product, AWS's developer associate or developer advocate for AI says that it's a standalone IDE, and although it's an AWS product, it's presented as something slightly separated from the rest of core AWS, which is quite good, right? It's much more of coming from the open source side of things. Now, the reason I put this in this week's episode because of the security aspects, and the folks at AWS call this out, right? Which is, if you think about having an AI agent, it's an IDE, you can have it in a couple of different modes, either autopilot mode, where the agent is free to make code changes, or you can run it in supervised mode, which has prompts for approval before any change. So that's quite good, right? You've got the option there if you're looking at potentially opening up a threat surface for attack. if you've got a supervised mode versus autopilot mode, which is quite good. And it also says, even though in autopilot mode, there are user approval prompts for critical actions, such as installing NPM modules or running commands with npx.
Right. It harks back to our conversation with Kayla, right? Because how do we make sure that security is thought about from the business side, but also the developer side?
Yeah.
So if Kiro is running in an autopilot mode, what are the guardrails? What have we decided to create as the policy around it before it's allowed to do that? If it's in supervised mode or supervised mode, then that makes me feel a little bit better, right?
Yeah.
But at least it does send that approval prompt for critical actions. So that's good.
Yeah, a good example of building some guardrails in on a component that's not necessarily a AWS client only type of module. It's something that could help in a number of different environments. So there we go. Yeah, those were my choices for the week.
Well, I thought those were good choices because they all relate in some form or fashion to our guest. And what a wonderful discussion we had with Kayla Underkoffler. And I really appreciate her coming on. We appreciate each of our guests. We hope many of them will come back and visit us again.
And on that note, I think that's the end of the show. If you'd like to...
We have to do the outro.
We have to remember to do the outro this time. Because we
have to remember to do the outro, Rory.
Yes. So if you'd like to leave some feedback and suggestions, but would prefer not to write an email, you can leave us a voicemail, 90-second max, and we'll share any that are not too spicy in the following episode. Positive criticism that is constructive. Thank you very much. So the SpeakPipe link is in the show notes, but that's www.speakpipe.com/cyber_sidekicks. Or you can send us an email, Christina.
Nice. So my email is christina@richmondadvisorygroup.com, and Rory's is rory@richmondadvisorygroup.com. And I'm going to leave our listeners with a nice little German word that I discovered the other day. Yes, a Morgenmuffel is a noun from German it describes a person who is extremely grumpy in the mornings and typically wakes up in a cross mood. Morgenmuffel. So for those of you who might have a child or a spouse who is a Morgenmuffel, it's a fun little word to use. Say, oh, you're such a little Morgenmuffel.
Yeah, it's a good job we don't have any Morgenmuffels on this show, isn't it, Christina?
Yes. Yes, thank goodness. All right. Thanks for listening, folks. This was fun to flip things around. We hope you like the new order. Come back and listen next week as well.
Yeah, thanks, everybody. Look forward to speaking with you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.